This video presentation is brought to you by the Pro Mathematics Academy. Welcome back to another video presentation brought to you in part by the Pro Mathematics Academy. In this video, we'll be continuing our series on coordinate geometry. In particular, we now look at how we can find the midpoint of a line segment. All right. So the formula for midpoint, right, is m equals x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. All right. So that means if we're given 2 points, right, we simply add the x values and divide it by 2, and then add the y values and then divide it by 2. And if we do that, we end up with a new point, right? And that new point is the midpoint. Okay. So let's apply this formula to A, B. All right. So if we apply to A, B, right? So let's look for the midpoint of AB. We now end up with 1 plus 3 divided by 2, comma, 2 plus 5 divided by 2. So I'm simply adding the x values and dividing them by 2, and adding the y values and dividing them by 2. So this result gives me 4 divided by 2, comma, 7 divided by 2, which is equal to 2, comma, 3.5. So if I go down to my Cartesian plane, I should be able to identify the point 2, 3.5, right? But I think I messed up this graph a little bit. So I think it's something like that. So here, if I look for the point 2, right, then this point should be 3.5. So we have 3.5 there, and we have 2 here. So the midpoint is 2, 3.5 for AB, and we found it using the formula. All right. So let's see if we can find a midpoint for our other 2 line segments. All right. So the other line segment would be CD. All right. So if I apply the same formula to CD, I now end up with -1 plus 5 over 2, comma, -1 plus 3 over 2, which is equal to 4 over 2, comma, 2 over 2, which is equal to 2, 1 when I simplify it. So now, remember, this one is not the midpoint of AB, it's the midpoint of CD, right? So now, if I go down back to my Cartesian plane, I should be able to identify the midpoint of this line segment. Right, so right there, this is where we have 2, 1. And if you look at this, we see that we are halfway between the point C and the point D. All right, so that's why we call it the midpoint, because we're halfway between the 2 points. All right, and 2, 1 identifies the midpoint perfectly. I think that I'm going to try to identify this one by visualizing it, and then let's see what the formula says. So if I look at this line and I think about it, the midpoint is somewhere in the middle. Okay? The midpoint is somewhere in the middle. So how can I find the point in the middle here? I don't want to guess it. So since I don't want to guess it, I have to try to find it exactly. So let's go. I'm going to mark 1 point from that end, 1 point from this end, 1 point from that end, 1 point from that end, and I'm going to continue until I get to the middle. Okay, just going to continue like that until I get to the middle. So now I'm at the middle, and I see that I ended up with 2.5. All right, I ended up with 2.5 as my y value. What is my x value? My x value seems to be positive 10. So therefore, this point is actually 10, 2.5. All right, so that's how I identified it visually, because this is a vertical line. And if we have a vertical line or a horizontal line, we can use our visualization skills to basically figure out where the midpoint would be. okay, because the midpoint is that point that is in the middle of the line segment. All right, so let's see what the formula said. Let's erase these. So the formula says we're gonna add these two values and divide by 2, add these two values and divide by 2. So let's go. So that's 10 plus 10 over 2, comma, negative 5 plus 10 over 2, which is equal to 20 over 2, comma, 5 over 2. If I simplify that on my calculator, I end up with 10, comma, 2.5. Right, so we see that the formula gave us the same answer as our visualization, or figuring it out without a formula, okay? That is it for this video. Please remember to hit the notification bell, like, share, and subscribe for future post notification.